In 1984, Universal and Lorimar presented The Last Starfighter.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Sur and the Kodan Armada. Get ready? Prepare for blastoff.
I played Alex Rogan, a kid from an isolated mountain trailer park who's recruited to fight in an interstellar war when he breaks the record on a seemingly ordinary video game. Hi, I'm Lance Guest. All of us who worked on The Last Starfighter were drawn to its charming story, its witty dialogue, and its tongue-in-cheek treatment of good old-fashioned space adventure fantasy, all of which form the base of its continuing popularity. But if there's one element that earns a distinctive place in cinema history, it's the film's groundbreaking use of computer-generated visual effects. So now, let's cross the galaxy to that war-torn planet of Rylos and hear from director Nick Castle and the rest of the artists that crossed another frontier that led to the amazing new world of digital effects technology. Long before technology enters the scene, there's always the idea, the story, and the writer.
I was a junior copywriter at an advertising agency in New York, and I would find myself with large blocks of time between account meetings or whatever, and I started writing screenplays. It was funny because one day I was on my lunch break and I kind of wandered into one of these videos.
And he was a tremendous guy to work with, real fun. Great stories about Hollywood, so I mean, it was a fun time to have him on board. He was a real trooper because it was a very difficult exercise in putting on the makeup. All day long, isn't it, Robert?
Mm-hmm. Getting it over with.
I'm gonna walk him out, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It was my first film, and I was a huge Music Man fan and a big fan of his and the character he portrayed, Music Man. And
There's no more cables or anything, Press. You just have to get in the car. Okay.
I see box. I can do this in my sleep.
so working with him and getting him for the movie was a thrill, and he was terrific to work with, and everybody had a great time with him.
Down in here like this, and I want to not see you, and then come up firing right at where King is.
I would always try to get him to rehearse the scenes with me.
Shooting camera left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the guy was in his mid-70s, and he would always say, "Hey, I'm a theater actor. I'll do it many times as you want."
Action.
It was amazing. He still had that great energy, and he was tremendous in the film.
Phew. Foul stench. Dirty creatures. Now get a good look, Alex. You can bet your asteroids you'll be seeing more of them. Either you fight, or you get used to that smell. Look out, Alex!
Centauri! Yeah, Centauri. You okay? Betty, get a doctor.
No native cures or witch doctors. I'm fine.
You know, it's a license to steal. It's a wonderful way to make a living. And I wish the world could enjoy its job as much as I enjoy mine. Rita now.
We set about bringing all those elements together, and Digital Productions was the venue, the scene where that took place.
So we set out to begin to do complex scenes with lots of information in them and large volumes of scenes using the Cray supercomputer. And we got the Last Starfighter project launched with Ron Cobb.
And it was very, very clear from the time I first met John Whitney Jr. and joined his company, Digital Productions, that what we were going after was photoreal simulations, the idea of a kind of synthetic photography, which was very, very exciting to me. I definitely saw that potential and was drawn to the company for that reason. And so here was our chance to see if we could actually do it.
It was a breakthrough type of idea, which I thought was very interesting. It was One, I had no experience with special effects of any kind, so anything, I was going to be a novice walking into any situation. And the idea of doing something that would have kind of historical implications was fun. Bottom line was, you know, that this all could turn out just fine.
I was going a lot by John Whitney Jr.'s enthusiasm about exactly what was possible, and I took his word for it, you know.
And what I did was say, well, now our deadline is, I think at that point it was 6 months away. It had to be in theaters in 6 months, and I said, so how many frames are we doing? And they told me whatever the number was. And I said, how many polygons in each frame? And they told me whatever it was. And I said, and how long does it take to render a frame at that level? And they told me, and I stood up on the chalkboard and did the math. I said, according to your own figures, it's going to take you 17 months to complete this film.
Jeff Rogan came into my office one time, we were about halfway through, and said, it can't be done. We're not going to do it. We're not going to make it. We're not going to make it in time, and the special effects are just not.
The process, so like any pioneering effort, is going to have its ups and downs. And here we were pioneering, like I said, right in the middle of doing a movie with really no history to fall back on as to how long this would all take.
So we agreed we would simplify the shots, which is a real shame.
It was very exciting to be in a situation like that, to have film backers trust us enough to develop the software, train the staff, build the models, and get things going all on parallel tracks. What we had to do at DP with regards to Ron Cobb's designs, we had to take his designs and draft them.
Ron had some extraordinary talents that were very important. One matter had to do with the creation of the design of the Gunstar ship, and in order to make a 3D database of that design, Ron had to draw. And he was able to do this freehand, front and side and top and bottom views of the ship, as if he was actually making mechanical engineering drawings for its actual manufacture as a real thing. And he was able to do that. And that made our job just so much easier because we were able to take those drawings and input them into the computer.
I got launched into digitizing drawings, storyboarding, showing the CGI animators, you know, how the spaceships were supposed to fly.
That to be an actual spacecraft. So all the attitude jets are completely there, and I wrote big manuals on how we could automate this. And once we got all that down and we were able to instruct the computer to create these sequences of frames, there was not enough power left to let us see it until we laboriously put it on film. That was a huge blind spot, you know, and only then could you say, oh, I got that number wrong, or it was in the wrong position, and then you go back, change the number, and you have to go through the whole process again. We went from that to where we had instant playback, at least in a vector form, a kind of wireframe form. We could keyframe or position things and have the computer animate for us, and then we could alter the animation, and we ultimately had tremendous little handles on all the rotations and translation coordinates of any object as well as the object itself. So at the end we were able to just, as I say, almost use it like a word processor. We could just make scenes and see them instantly and correct them, see them instantly, correct them again, see them instantly, correct them again, see them instantly, one more correction, see them instantly, and got it. But you have to have that loop. That loop is days, you know. That's a machine very much in the way.
I remember sleeping on the bench of the Cray, and I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of late hours, a lot of long hours, people just cranking away trying to make sure everything came out and not let a single bad popping polygon get into the show. And so we lived there on the facilities, and you have the Cray self-portrait that we rendered, and it is in the shape of a C, and it has a nice round bench around it, and that was a comfy place to get an hour of sleep before you had to go back in and fix the next bug. You could also stand in the middle of the Cray, and that was kind of eerie. Like, will I have children? Will they be normal?
It was really difficult because, again, we were waiting for something we didn't know was going to come out. You know, we didn't know if it was going to come out and if it would come out on time even. There was a lot of worry. The studio was worried, we were worried, they were worried, everyone tried to keep, I know the digital, you know, had to spoon feed us the information in order not to freak us out because of a lot of the problems they were having.
It was a very exciting place to be, because you would walk in and like once a week, you'd hear a little shout of triumph from one of the little cubicles and a head would pop up and then it would prairie dog all over the place, meaning all the heads in each cubicle would pop up and there'd be a mass rush to this one cubicle and somebody would go, you know, Eureka, I've discovered, somebody discovered how to place multiple lighting sources in something, and it's like everybody would go nuts for like 2 hours.
Now we can do this. Yeah, I come in the morning and says, we can now do this. You know, we can now, each time there's a little more. And I'd have to convey that to Lorimar and Nick and everything. They can do this now, at least they say they can.
They did particles before there were particle system things, you know. It was just amazing.
And we no longer had to just claim we could do it, we now could show that we could do it, you know.
So we were writing software as we were doing production, and it was pretty exciting and wild time.
Even the artists at Industrial Light and Magic, responsible for the effects in the Star Wars films and Jurassic Park, were astounded at how rapidly the technology had evolved.
John Whitney and I decided to pursue the full potential of computer graphics, not just to get a big feature project, you know, scale back, let's take it easy. We wanted to really explore what was possible. And we had done an X-Wing fighter ship test for George Lucas in '78.
I wanted to prove that it was possible to use the computer system to create more exciting story points and more dynamics on the screen.
I think the test had been around for a while, and I can't remember who I saw it with. But I remember walking into the screening room when this test was being shown, and I just said, my God, you know, there's no way that I could have programmed this shot. There's no way I could have gotten these maneuvers. There's no way I could have visualized this in advance to be able to see these ships flying along. And one of them, I remember, sort of does a big loop-de-loop and flies up out of camera range, comes back and flies right by the camera. I couldn't have even figured out how to pre-visualize that in order to be able to try it even in motion control. It was really neat. And I remember the number of the folks there that were looking at this were not impressed at all. It was like, oh, well, okay, that's it. And they sort of turned it off. But boy, you could see there was a future, you know, and it just needed time and money, you know, to take care of it. So development, you know, a lot of people in there building hardware and software to be able to get it to a point where it was going to pay off, and it sure has.
I think Last Starfighter is a landmark in that it's the first film that attempted to go completely computer generated with all the visual effects. It was a gutsy move. I applaud the effort. I thought there was a lot of great design work there.
We brought a Cray XMP to its knees.